How's it going, everybody? JJ Wilson here, and for this review, I wanted to talk about the movie that I just watched not too long ago. It's a continuation of a series that I just got through watching before the year was over, 2020. Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which came out in 2016, but 3 years later, Wit Studio, the company that is behind this series, they made a movie which is like a sequel to this one, to the series. And the title of the movie is called Kabaneri the Iron Fortress Battle of Unato. Yes, Unato. The Battle of Unato. And so this is a region, really it's a castle town. And it's in the, if I got this right, the Horikuri region. It's like northeast Japan, so to speak. So that's where those guys are heading, because they just left the capital where Ikoma defeated Biba, who was the son of the shogun that ordered Biba to eliminate the Kabaneri, which he never did. He had his own ambitions to get in power and basically take control of Hinomoto, which is Japan, by his own way. So thankfully Ikoma stopped Biba, and now the Kojetsu, they're going to a different place. Okay, and so once the train arrives at Unato, everything seems kind of normal and everything, but after a while Ikoma kind of noticed something weird. Like, he noticed all these footprints of the Kabaneri, like they're kind of going in one direction, and it seemed like it was kind of uniform. And the Kabaneri are supposed to be, typically they're supposed to be mindless, like they're so hungry and bloodthirsty that they kind of just go anywhere. But he noticed that a lot of these Kabaneri, when they retreated, because in the beginning of the movie, man, I tell you, like, it was crazy. You had the soldiers of that town like fight against the Kabaneri, and once the Kosetsujo arrived, the train, Mume gets out of there and she goes to work. Like, whew, it was incredible watching her really throughout this movie, man. It's like ever since she left out of her confinement inside that Nue creature, which is the name of this hyphen Kabaneri monster that she was stuck into thanks to Biba. Once she got out of there, it's like she had a new resolve, man. Like, she just became even more of a beast when it came to killing these Kabaneri. Like, the way she was twirling in midair and destroying these things, using the gun with the sword enhancement that they made, just like a modified weapon that they did with the coating. Oh man, it was crazy. You gotta see it to understand what I'm talking about. That girl is incredible. But so going back to the investigation, so Ikoma wants to see what's going on, but this is kind of my pet peeve in this movie, because despite him saving Mume, despite him pretty much saving the country from utter destruction by Biba and his plans, it's almost like he's back to square one again, because he's a Kabaneri. And so the group that they meet is like this elderly gentleman, and let me get the name of this group right. So the military group that's over Unato, they're called the Federal Forces, and it's led by their General Kuroji. And there's also another group called the Ichigo Tora Ohuki, which is held by General Mogari. He's like this bearded guy, and Kuroji is the old man. And so Ayame, Kusuru, Ikoma, and I don't think Mume was in there, I can't remember, but they had a meeting with these guys, and next thing we know, Ikoma is expressing his desire to investigate this strange phenomenon, but like nobody wants to have anything to do with him, kind of like they don't really trust his words. And once again, just like in the season, you know, the military guys in there, especially under Kuroji, because they find out his existence as a Kabaneri, like they's like, I bet it was him that summoned these things to attack our city. I think it's all his fault. And I was like, wow, again with this narrative. Wow. I mean, of course they don't know because it's the first time they ever met Ikoma, and yet here we go again with Ikoma being, receiving prejudice just because he's not entirely Kabane and he's not entirely human either. It was crazy. And so they had to pull him out of there, and Ayami had to talk sense into him. And then at this point, Ikoma's condition as a Kabaneri, his craving for human blood, it creeps in, and it makes him get really emotional. And he, by the end of the movie, he expresses that to Mume, like, as long as we have somebody to care about, we don't have to worry about always getting angry and bitter, because those emotions feed into the virus, the Kabane virus. It feeds into that, and because of that, that's why he got crazy. You see that like in the middle of the movie, like he just going nuts, and he almost bites Mume at one point, but because she started crying, he kind of snapped out of it. And so once the military officers caught him, attacking her and maybe a few of the townspeople, Ikoma was like, okay, since you guys, in order to earn your trust, go ahead and put me in solitary confinement, and that way you can keep me there for 3 days max. And if I don't go crazy, and if I'm not attacking you guys, then you need to let me go. That way, I'm trustworthy. You can count on me. Because he really wanted to investigate that mountain, that castle, that abandoned castle on the hilltop. He wanted to do it on his own, but Mume she tried to talk him out of it, but because he got crazy for blood, it ended up turning out like that. But at some point, the military group, they were going to start the campaign in a couple of days, but Ayame, who's the leader of the Kosetsujo, she was like, nah, let's go ahead and investigate what Ikoma's talking about. Let's go ahead and figure out what's going on before they start this military campaign to attack the Kabane. And so they were about to do that, but then the military group made a change of plans. The Kojiro's group, it's like, let's go ahead and attack the Kabane. But all of a sudden the Kabane, they start attacking them. See. And then we find out that the villain in this arc, his name is Kageyuki, Lord Kageyuki. And this happened about maybe 5 years or 6 years prior to the movie. He was once human, and he had a daughter named Miyuki. And so at some point he got infected by a Kabane when the Kabane started invading his area, his territory, and he became, instead of becoming a Kabane, he became a Kabaneri. And so once the soldiers found out about his condition, they kind of turned against him. And his best friend was supposed to be like his top retainer, Umyo. Let me get his name right again. Yes, Umo. So Umo, he was there before, his lord got assassinated, Kageyuki. So he was in there, and once he sees his lord Kageyuki about to die, and he gets shot, and the shots don't do anything to this guy, he ends up surviving it. And he's looking at Umyo, and he's asking him like, tell me something, am I human or am I Kabane? Because he didn't know what he was turning himself into. And his friend Umo was just speechless, man, And he was recalling this story to Ikoma and Mume after Ikoma miraculously saved Mume from this thing called, it's like a heightened, it was like this Kabane that was like overpowered, and in a way it kind of looked like Venom from Spider-Man. Not by design, but just by what he was capable of. It was crazy. Like that scene between her and that Kabane was insane. A Kazatori. So she was fighting against a Kazatori. So yeah, once Ikoma kills the Kazatori, that's when they kind of regroup with everybody else, and as well as Umo, and that's how we find out the origin of what's going on in Unato Castle because of Lord Kageyuki, and he wants revenge of what happened to him, basically, against the humans. And he's also protecting his daughter Miyuki because he wanted to save her life, and he was able to do that, but he did that by turning her into a Kabaneri after she was about to die from saving him, but getting completely defeated and dying from gunshots. So yeah, I know that was a mouthful, but yeah, like, you gotta check out the end of this movie, man, because it got kind of wild, especially after Miyuki was awakened after seeing her father, end up passing. But man, it was nuts. So overall, it was a lot of great action in this movie. Definitely the scenes especially with Mume, crazy. Only thing I didn't like about the film was the fact that Ikoma was pretty much treated like an outcast once again. I understand like the soldiers not liking him, but like some of the people close to him, especially Mume and Ayame, they should realize, like, hey, even though Ikoma might look crazy, like we trust him, and eventually, that's how it was, especially with Kusuru being there, always being calm and collected, reassuring that, hey, Ikoma's got this. He's been through death's door like one too many times already not to, so we can count on him to figure out what's going on. So at least it wasn't completely a head scratcher to that effect, but yeah, I'm glad things resolved itself by the end of the movie, at least. But yeah, that's my little review for the review. I know it's kind of long-winded. Let me know your thoughts if you guys watched it too. The Battle of Unato, Kabaneri, the Iron Fortress. And that's gonna be it. I'll see you all later.